And we'll call our special meeting to order for USD 348. We'd like to welcome our guests and at this time invite you to join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
First item on the agenda for the City Council is the approval of the agenda. Sheree motion to approve.
Second.
Corey seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes.
Our turn. May we have an approval of the agenda, please? Second.
Second.
Susan has moved and Kelley has seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Before we proceed on to our recognition of community servants, I did want to pass along regards from our board vice president, Dr. Harvey. He was really sorry that he couldn't be here tonight. He and his partner are presenting at the Douglas County Dental Association. I can't remember the name of the meeting, but it's a big deal and he needed to be there. So that's where he needed to be tonight, and I told him I'd pass along his regards. As we begin our recognition of past community servants, Mayor Semino and I and Mr. Dodge, we were talking this past fall. We're always working together. But with the timing of our strategic plan processes being in alignment, we thought, gosh, the beginning of a year meeting would be such a great time for us to take a look at this again. And to be even more intentional where we can be, if there are areas of that, where our strategic plan might overlap. And so just really thankful for city council members being here tonight, and board members and our guests. As we are doing this work to plan for the future and to vision for the future, we also thought what a great opportunity to take a moment and pause and remember, celebrate, and thank the shoulders that we stand on, to be able to come together in this way, to do this kind of work, to look to the future. You talk about how you'd like to recognize your past servants.
Actually, did not get to. We all have one here tonight. This is on your board. Right. But reach out to all the past.
Community service, school service, and so we give our thanks for that tonight. At this time, we will go ahead and start with our list of recognitions. And I don't know, I'm sure you guys can see all of this, but in the order of presentation, we'll start with board member Andy. And I will take Kelley Neufeld. Andy, would you like to head? Yes. Yes.
I am happy to recognize Judith Tanner, John Wagner. I believe my friend Blaine Cohen is out there. She's
As well, we have Ruth Barkley, is she here? Barbara Johnson, Chris, Sarah Wilson.
So to continue this, I'm happy to. Do I see how it goes? And Josh.
Bill Busby, Doris Pratt, Scott Lauridsen is also serving on the City Council currently, Roger Arnold, as well as Jane Schwartz, Carl Butell, his wife Susan's here tonight, Charles Wintermantle, his wife and daughter Flickenger.
All right. Now I want to introduce Chip Hornberger, Sandy Chapman, Christie, and Nikki Chubb, as well as Orville Pohl, Hubert Hoskinson, Henrietta Shufflin, and Winfred Sells.
I'm honored the opportunity to recognize Mr. Ivan Huntoon, Mr. Fred Schultz, Mr. Tinsley Ward,
board meetings, there's always a certain something that we read. And so I'd like to kind of assimilate that and recognize you all again. And totally understand it's not in front of the streaming camera, but I know Megan's want to get pictures. But if we can just, as together, USD 348 supports and promotes excellence in all school activities. And so it is our honor tonight to thank, celebrate all past board members, and we'd like to give you a round of applause. Thank you all for being here and representing family members that are no longer with us.
Can you guys come back here so that Doris doesn't have to come down? And
Yeah, we'll come back here and get a picture. So let's take a 2-minute recess. Are you okay with that, Casey? 2-minute recess?
you guys can stay put. I'll just go over. Behind him a little bit so I can get all of you. Yep, smack dab in the front, guys. We'll zoom in on you too. Do that. Go to the back. Oh, I am too. Right? I never got the nature advisor ever. Okay. Hey, those of you in the back that are used working your way in here. Make sure you feet. Come on down. Okay. All right, let me make sure I get one. You ready? Sorry, I was talking. Get in trouble for that too. Here we go. Just start clicking. And he's looking behind. Okay, now I got like 40. Great. It was like my thumb to the first.
All right, we will call this meeting back to order, but before we proceed on, I don't have any announcements other than to say that none of that could have happened without our rock star board clerk, Megan Johnson. Had this vision to do this, and she went through all of the minutes, looking for all of the names, emailed, sent letters, called, text, all of that. Megan, thank you so much for all your work on that. Okay, Mayor Semino, back to you.
So with that, the only agenda item we have is joint work session. I think I'd like, before we start, because I don't think everybody on this stage knows everybody or has introduced themselves to each other. So if we could just go around, I guess, and introduce everybody, or introduce yourselves to each other.
Hi, I'm Tony Brown. I moved to Baldwin City a couple years ago, so and jumped onto the school board. So it's nice to know I'm an unfamiliar face. It's nice to meet all.
I'm Susan Schiffer-Blind, been in Baldwin City for 19 years. Been on the school board for, I think this is my 6th or 7th.
Andy Parks, longtime resident, never a local, you can never be. I didn't graduate here. Been on the school board 12 years now, I believe, off and on. And I wanted to say it's really a pleasure to be here with the city tonight. I remember when I first got on the school board, those two entities weren't even really talking. There were people on each side who felt they'd been wrong and they didn't want any part of it. So we come a long way. It's lovely to be here with you people, and I appreciate you.
Chris Perry, I've been a Baldwin City resident for about 10 years now, and been on the board, I think 5.
Good evening, I'm Newfeld. I've been a Baldwin City resident for 11 years now, and almost 1 year on this board. So I'm still learning, but I'm glad to be here with you.
Hi, I'm Kelley Bethell-Smith. I've lived here for 20 years, and this is the start of my 8th year on the board. Thank you so much for being here tonight and for the service that you give all the time.
My name is Mark Dodge. I'm superintendent. I'm a Baldwin City resident for 6 months now, but connections to Baldwin run pretty deep. My wife was a 98 alum from Baldwin High School. She was a member of the class that actually hand-delivered books from the library in a hand fashion from the junior high, but it's now the junior high to the high school here. So it's an honor and privilege to be a part of the community. So thank you for putting this together.
Glenn Rodden, City Administrator, in Baldwin City for almost 8 years now.
Casey Semino, Mayor of Baldwin City, in my 6th year as mayor. I've lived in Baldwin City nearly 20 years now. So and I do appreciate this. We haven't done one of these in the last 5 years. I don't think a joint meeting has been completed since the last community center discussion, from what I remember. So I do appreciate everybody being here tonight, taking the time with my families to discuss this item.
Corey Venable, council member, been here my whole life. Really glad for the opportunity to be here to talk with you all. I think this is our 4th year on the council. Yep.
Good evening, Irick Scott, proud graduate, BHS, class of 79. Been a Baldwin resident for 35 years. Great to see this meeting happen. Great idea, some of those residents doing that. Looking forward to this conversation. As Andy indicated, it wasn't always a very vision, but these two entities need each other, and it doesn't make sense not to try to figure out how we can leverage what we do together, and it's just more powerful. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully it doesn't get contentious, Andy, and we have another one of these at some point in the future.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Smith. I've been in and around Douglas County since 1968. In fact, when I first came to this county, I lived in the hotel downtown for a short period of time. I lived in the city for about 5 years, but I lived 4 miles west for 28 years before that. And I'm glad to be at this meeting, and thank you all for the invitation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Pitts, and this is my sixth year on City Council. I'm in my 2nd term. I've been a Baldwin City resident for 12 years now.
I'm Julie Constantinescu, and I've actually lived in the Baldwin City area for 52 years, and I have been in the city for about 9 years now, and this is my first term on the City Council. And I'd like to thank you guys for all the hard work that you do, and I'm glad that we're all here.
So with that, Kelley, I guess I envisioned, and we kind of spoke about it a little bit at the last council meeting, kind of figured we could present what our committee has come up with so far for our strategic plan, just a kind of short, high-level view of it, and listen to if you guys have some sort of synopsis or something of what you guys have completed up till now, and then just discuss as an entire body on where we think we could overlap and support and help each other, so that we're not counteracting each other's goals. Does that work for you? So I'll kick it over to Scott and Julie. Scott and Julie have been on our strategic planning committee. We've actually been working on a strategic plan for nearly, 3 years. We're finally at, I think, the tail end. Obviously, we all know the strategic plans never go away. But they have been working on their committee pretty diligently, along with the council, in numerous work sessions that we completed. And I think they have a fairly good high-level view of the direction the city and the council would like to go. So with that, Scott, I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Mayor. So yeah, this is really, as you know, ongoing effort, and we're kind of placing time now. We're getting close to where we have something we're going to be comfortable publishing on the website and on material. But it's been Case said, a pretty long effort with COVID, trying to get community feedback and input, as you know, is extremely difficult. So we just drug on and continues to do that. So thanks to the committee with Julie and Austin Wegener. As a citizen on there, we were really just kind of spearheading it. And then we'd have council work sessions and kind of formulate the message and the vision. We go back and rework it and bring it back. So I'm just going to kind of walk through very quickly where we're at and kind of what's the next steps. And then hopefully, you guys will give us some guidance. And what I'm interested in is, what we hope to get out of this. Is there a specific thing that we may need to prioritize in this plan? Because there's more that we have that we can do. It's a long range plan. So it really is, do you need things prioritized to help your plan, et cetera? I think that's where this gets some traction. So I'll just walk through this, stop, ask questions if it doesn't make sense. So just from a vision perspective, the vision we've adopted is the safe, affordable, connected, responsible hometown for all. So we think it's representative of what this council would like to continue to see the city be. We think we're pretty much there. We can be more connected. You can always be more responsible. Affordability is always something you're chasing. So that's the vision, to be the place where people come for those things. So pretty broad focus areas that I don't think will surprise anybody. But our focus areas are municipal services, really what the city is all about providing, economic development, and quality of life. Those are the focus areas that, as we break those down, we're going to be talking about performance areas within those focus areas, and then performance indicators with strategies around it. So it'll get fairly complicated. It will change quarterly, but we're trying to find a starting point for this process. So performance areas under municipal services are provide affordable, reliable, and diverse services. Indicators, we come up with some high-level indicators, and the work left to do there is figure out how we actually go do this, but really quantitative and internal and external markers about how we're going to go determine affordability, reliability, and diversity in our services. And there's reports we can drive. There's a whole bunch of things we can go do. We're working with city staff, department heads to bring forward what they suggest are the meaningful things in those areas. The next one is modernize outdated infrastructure and maintain historical assets. Obviously, we think this fits in with what the community is and would like to continue to be. That will also be a quantitative performance indicator. Number of projects, the budget spend. As a city and as a board, you prioritize what you do based on where you spend. Everything else really doesn't make sense, right? You can have objectives, but if you look at where you're spending your money, your budget, those are your priorities. So as we look at our budget, and what we're trying to use this framework for is, as we go through the budget process, to keep these out front. And so everything we do, does it meet these? Is it moving performance indicators forward? Are we below where we want to be? That would be a higher budget priority. And I think the goal of this council is much more effective budget planning process with the departments, rather than what's the hot button right now may not be a priority. So it really is trying to become more structured in actually how we plan and spend the budget. The other one is attract, develop, retain quality staff. I know you guys hold the same thing. It's key to pretty much success of any enterprise, and that's becoming much more difficult, as you know. So there'll be a lot of things: quantitative, qualitative, employee surveys, compensation market comparisons, turnover, and open position metrics. So we'll be looking at all of those going forward as a performance indicator. And then the last one on the services side, municipal services, increase transparency and community feedback. Never enough, so it'll be a continuous effort in doing things to try to do that. So community surveys about how we're doing, how we think we're doing doesn't matter. It's really landing. People are actually seeing it, feeling it, responding to it. Media reach, number of platforms, social media. There's a whole host of things that we believe we can measure transparency and community feedback. Questions at all on any of that? And then the next one is economic development. Focus area or performance areas in this focus area, attract and retain businesses and residents. Obviously, we think that's a key one for the board. Knowing how you guys are funded, FTEs are important. And we think there's definite synergy there with the city and what your plans are from a budget perspective, attracting students, and especially with some of the new legislation out there may make it more difficult to actually attract students. So if you've got a city that has a variety of housing, it has availability, then we have an opportunity then to be the destination for families that have kids. So that will be a pretty quantitative analysis on, rooftops, businesses. We'll use FTE as a measurement as well in the district. Those things we'll measure here. The other thing in economic development, the second of three, increased tourism and exposure. So that's something that we believe generates revenue through sales tax. It generates positive feedback. It generates future residents. Right, the more people you can get here, the more people that come back and potentially. So we'll have metrics around sales tax, event attendance, social media metrics around these events, exposure, and actual attendance. Then the last one here is just simply revenue growth. Obviously, we're going to measure, the sales and property tax. That's pretty much our key revenue sources. Goal is to drive sales tax to where it's actually the largest piece of our budget, ideally, and so we can continue to hold property tax, as low as possible. We'll measure utility customers and revenue as we bring on new households. They drive, obviously, revenue by paying utility bills, and that's part of our budget process. Questions there? All right, last one's quality of life, and this one's probably the most difficult to define and quantify, but it's something I think, and everybody's going to have a different definition of what that is, and that's what makes it hard. And we had a lot of feedback as a group about what that should be. We settled on 3 performance areas. First one, foster a family-oriented experience. Now that one in itself could take many, many different paths, but it's a good performance area, meaning that we may not even know we need to go focus on it in this area. But we'll be doing community surveys here because you'll get feedback, because what family-oriented experience means to me may be different than what it means to you. And so we need to know all of that, right? And so if we can make it as broad of an appeal as possible with the budget, what's practical, those will be kind of the experiences we're going to be looking for. Second one is support residents' physical, mental, financial, and social quality of life. Again, very important. No one could argue with that. I think everybody's looking for that. There'll be a lot of opportunity for us to figure out strategies to do that. Again, community surveying is probably going to be the biggest piece of that. We'll also measure the number of projects in those areas. And the last thing, really connected city. It's both socially, transportation, methods, and connectivity physically. So it's all of what goes into a connected city. Excuse me. Like I said, from your normal social media, how do we make that reachable by everybody? We've got senior citizens that don't necessarily take advantage of that. So how do we keep them connected? And then how do we just get from one side of the city to the other? As we grow, this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. You guys deal with that all the time. So that'll be part of the strategy as well. Next steps are to refine those indicators, specific surveys, get down to the actual reporting that we're going to be drawing on, get a baseline this year, and then follow it up on an annual basis. And then the real work is developing the strategies to go drive those performance areas. It'll be working with the city staff and the department heads on, with those as a goal, what do they need to get done to improve? And what they've actually done a good job already of, when we have work sessions, is they actually come forward with projects and they can talk to how it's going to impact some of those performance areas, right? So those are the discussions. Not, I need a new substation. If we put a new substation, it's here how it's going to impact reliability, those types of things. So those conversations we've already started having with staff. It's, like I said, going to just lead to a much better budget process. All right, that's it.
Okay, get back over to you, Kelley.
Okay, so, and you all have a copy of our strategic plan in front of you, so again, going to keep it high level.
And if any other board members want to jump in with just describing, or Mr. Dodge. I don't want to totally put him on the hot seat because we started our strategic plan process. Let's see, it would be about 21 months ago, I think, altogether. So it was before he began. But we were really, really fortunate with his hiring in December. Though he didn't officially start until July 1st, Mr. Dodge made it a priority as we were wrapping up our strategic plan to get with people and be working with them so that it would be cohesive from the jump. So he was a meaningful part of it. He just wasn't here at the beginning of it, but he definitely helped us get to the finish line on that. We basically identified 4 target areas. I'm not going to read all of them because you have them in front of you, but what I think I will do is give the higher category, and if other board members want to draw out a couple that you would like to maybe talk about for the purposes of discussion, please don't be shy. But the first one is preparing students for success. That one, clearly has more to do with educational aspects, as you can see with the examples there. Target area 2 is supporting the needs of students and staff. And of course, that can mean a lot of different things, including retention. We want high quality staff. We want high quality neighbors. All of those things overlap and work together. Target area 3, engagement in schools and school activities. I think there's a lot of opportunity for discussion tonight with that because that has to do with, as I was listening to Scott, quality of life issues. How vested do you feel? Sense of belonging in your school and your community are very much interlinked. And then target area number 4 has to do with operational effectiveness and maintaining and improving facilities to create safe, healthy, and inspiring learning spaces. Operational effectiveness, where that plays into issues of safety, transportation. Again, I think there's several areas that we can get into, but that's the 30,000-foot view at a glance. Other board members or Mr. Dodge, anything you want to add to that very brief summary?
No, I think that was good. The concept behind this, as you look at some of these items that are on here are best practices that we are putting on an ongoing basis that would remain on there for the stretch of a 5-year period. Some of these are practices we're putting in place so that we can get them in place and so they would be with the targeted destination year that would be completed within that 5-year window. So this was a fun process to go through. I do wish I could have been here from the start to be a part of it, but we've got some really motivated staff administratively, and then the teachers that we have in place and the students that are involved. And the students have some roles within the strategic plans that pulls this together. And I've had conversations with Casey where we've talked about a vibrant city has one that has economic development it's overlapping with opportunities for families, that also has a thriving school system, an education system that's geared preparing kids for the future. And so this is, again, I would say this is a great time to be doing these since we're overlapping with the time frame. So this is good stuff.
I don't know if this relates directly to our strategic plan, but I was struck when Scott was talking that we really have a synergy in the quality of life in this town. When Kelley and I are a negotiating team, we go in and we tell our teachers every year that we probably can't afford to pay them as well as Gardner, maybe Lawrence. And we have to compete on other levels. We can pay them as best we can. We have to compete on other levels. Some of those levels are directly our problem, class sizes and so on, but others are just real quality of life issues that we need this town to be stay as attractive as it is, so that people really want to be here and make their lives here, stay here, not have to drive somewhere to work. And obviously, you guys, part of bringing people into town is knowing that the schools are going to do a good job with their kids. It's really where we have to have shared values.
So yeah, Andy, I'll agree with you on that, and kicks off the discussion for mine. Based off what Scott said, and and sitting in the committee's meetings and listen to the council discuss, I feel like it's been hit on tonight. The school district and the city has really, I think our level of cooperation has really increased over the last few years from what I experienced in the past, and I really appreciate that. I think where we're seeing that, one of our objectives on the city side is the growth, the economic development side, housing, which I know is particularly important to the school district for those FTEs. And I think we're demonstrating the ability together with the grid program that you guys have approved and we're implementing now. Start seeing some growth from that. Hopefully continue building upon that. So I hope in the future, my goal is, and it may not be next year, with interest rates where they are, I hope in the next 12 to 24 months, the school district really starts seeing the impact of that program. Because I think when we started with NRP with you guys 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we didn't start seeing that until now. And I think that's what's going to happen with the rural housing incentive district as well. We're getting developers that are looking at Baldwin. It's never developed in Baldwin. So that is, in and of itself, something pretty cool. And they're not small developments that we're seeing. We have one coming in that's 29 single-family lots, another one that's 54 single-family lots, and another one that's looking at us. So we're seeing all sorts of different types of housing, which is what we've identified. Our strategic plan is a very important need. Not only you have to have every type of housing in our community to be able to have that affordability. If you just have one type of housing, you're not addressing that affordability piece either. And that, the way I view it, and any of the council members, you guys, I'd love to hear feedback from also. The way I see it is that's everything from upper income housing to the lowest of the low housing. Because as those upper income houses get taken up, a lot of times they're from people that live in our community, but they just want to stay here. They just want to upgrade. So then that frees up their housing for the next level that wants to jump. And the next level gets to jump into there. It just continues to be a domino effect, and that's what we saw on the NRP, obviously in real estate. So I get to see that movement. We're also seeing a lot of folks move from out in the country in town, which I know doesn't affect you guys as much as it affects us. But that's freeing up those country houses for the younger families that have now built up their family enough that they can afford to live in the country. I call it the real estate life cycle. Start in town, they move to the country, they get older, and they come back. I mean, that's the real estate life cycle in our school district. When I say, our community, when I talk about our community, council's heard me say this, I consider our school district. I know they're not our voters, they're not, they don't directly elect us, but they still claim Baldwin as a. So I always include that. I think we're working on that side for you, and I hope that you guys are seeing some of those budget impacts from the NRP, and I think you will see it from that.
Let's just keep jumping all over because then it doesn't have to be linear and it can be more brainstorming. There's no actionable items tonight. It's a beginning of a conversation. Something that was mentioned before as part of the city's goals, because my brain is working, how can we help you? This isn't just about how you can help us. We appreciate that, but it goes both ways. One thing that jumped off at me in the area of municipal services, it's in addition to modernizing infrastructure, is also, and this may be the wrong word, but maintaining or preserving maybe was what you used, historical assets. With students, that immediately jumped off of me as, a possibility to provide some assistance with preserving our local historical assets. It's a learning opportunity for them to understand what their heritage is and not just what's on TikTok right now. But what are the things that have built up this town? And there might be some resources that could be helpful from students that could dovetail as class projects and then help with feet on the ground for some city initiatives. So that was a quick note that I made. What else?
One thing that I kind of always thought that we would overlap a lot with, help each other out, and kind of thought about Tony here in this circumstance, because Tony professionally deals with a lot of data that doesn't measure quantitatively. But a lot of this is going to be public feedback based, a lot of the qualitative stuff. And I think the two organizations or government entities can really join forces on that public feedback. Yeah, we're all going to be reaching out, trying to acquire data. So I think that's definitely one point I want.
Corey, let me follow up on that, because that's one of the things that I thought of. Scott, I appreciated your presentation, but I kept hearing community surveys over and over again, right? Those are tough. If you guys, I mean, I know you're at the beginning of this process, but have you talked about how it is that you're going to conduct those community surveys, and then to Corey's point, how you're going to communicate that information, right? Because a lot of this is qualitative stuff that folks in my profession love, but is difficult to monitor and communicate effectively.
A great question, and we've bounced that around in the committee and council. We don't know, but we do know that there's resources, at Baker, there's professional resources. We talked about, surveying the entire district. That's the community. To Casey's point, you get the bigger view. You may be a macro view. So, answer your question. We don't know. The committee is going to be spending the next several months looking at options to do that. So there's so many different surveys. Don't know if it's one big one or multiple small ones, but any input or effort you guys have on a potential way to go do that, or maybe you're already doing it yourselves, and I think you probably do survey more than we do. So if you got ideas, I think that would be a tremendous acceleration of our ability to go do that.
Well, on the topic of data, one thing I appreciated about your presentation in general was you're talking about looking for increases in sales tax, looking for new homes being built, looking for some of that perception data as well. So I think via all those wide range of data sources you're going to bring in, that will help you know whether those slippery things you're trying to measure and do are getting done and accomplishing the goals you're seeking.
So one thing I saw on yours, you guys went to signage as far as traffic flow patterns. So Tony was still on the city council when we actually discussed this with the former police chief who was in my first year. One complaint I do hear, I mean, I'm a parent as well, experienced a little bit of it. Doesn't seem to be as bad as what you used to hear on social media. So, but is the traffic flow through the junior high? And 5 years ago, we had discussed maybe doing some signage, maybe doing some one-way streets. At that time, our police chief was not in favor of it, which is kind of what we have a new police chief, a different police chief. And so maybe that is one way that we could help assist you guys without causing either entity a bunch of money, just trying to figure out, you guys are in the education field, you see it every day. Mr. Dodge, you probably have a better perception on this than obviously we do. I just experience it, I don't live it every single day. So we're happy to help in that plan. Anyway.
I would say traffic flow patterns. It is something that needs to be looked at. Whether it's one-way streets you're speaking about, and in some cases it's just understanding timing and patience. Over at the IC, I think is actually probably more of concern than even the junior high and high school, just due to the location of the two buildings, and then the individuals trying to come in and go from one building to the next. And there's an imaginary third lane that just pops up at times, and that creates safety concerns, and that creates a disruption with the flow of traffic. And so that is something that we have been trying to figure out. What are some ways we can adjust that? What can we do? And our police chief, Chief Patrick, has been awesome about coming in and coming up with some suggestions and ideas. And it's one of those things that once parents get into the flow and the pattern and the timing of when's the best time to come and pick up the student, that helps as well. But this is something that over the next 5 years we need to address.
Again, let us know if there's anything on the city side, signage, changing that traffic flow. And I don't want to speak for the entire council, but there'll be a lot of reminding us to try to figure out less expensive way, changing up attitudes and all that stuff. How we in that area, certain period, and make change like that. Let us know from your group as you guys continue these discussions.
The comment I'll make in that space is our target area for our strategic plan includes maintaining and improving facilities. And I know there's a couple here with us that represent the city that was part of the visioning committee for the community feedback for our bond exploration project that is currently underway. That is still work in progress. However, this exact component is important. It's important in this project in a number of different ways, and I guess that conversation may be happening sooner than later, we hope.
Related to that, also, since we're all about saying thank you tonight, I know we've said it before, but also to all of you, the assistance on 56 Highway with the crossing guard. I mean, again, that's an example of, hey, we have this thing that affects all of us, and your assistance on that. And I know Chief Patrick was instrumental in coordinating. He's a great go-between, but that having a crossing guard there now is wonderful, and it's worked out great. And that's thanks to the help that you guys gave on that too. So we're very appreciative. As we continue to talk about other ideas, again, it's a two-way street, not to make a pun, but I'm going to. Related to that, I'm glad Kelley brought that up because the bond study that we've been doing, definitely those quality of life issues have to do with your daily routines and traffic flow patterns, spaces, safe spaces, all of that. That's come up a number of times, and just so that you all are aware where we're at in that process, if you're not already, is that we'll be giving an update at our meeting on Tuesday, but we're continuing to meet, and we'll be bringing a recommendation back in early February. So that should define the scope. But the three areas that were identified, that's useful for you guys too, because it dovetails with all the things we've talked about. The three areas that we have been looking at for that, the three primary categories for a potential bond to be considered by the board to then advance to the community for a vote, have to do with education. Category 2 is safety and security. Category number 3 is outdoor learning and activities. So everything falls under those three categories, just so that you all are aware how that is developing as well.
So I'll dovetail off that. A few years ago, you noticed we started making a lot of investment in sidewalks in Baldwin City. I think that is continuing. We have not stopped that. Tony got to experience the onset of that. And to date, I think we've received about $4 million worth of grants that we have done over the last 4 years. So next year, we should see 11th Street get a sidewalk from 56 down to High Street all the way. That is in its final phase of KDOT, as well as from the school crossing on the railroad tracks south to High Street. We'll also probably hopefully next year be getting a sidewalk there as well. We're hoping that pull some of your guys' patrons off of Orange Street so that they can just use that up there. We were approved this past year from this fall. That we got approved for a south lane that will end up going from High Street along the railroad tracks to the south end of our city limits. So it'll serve that community down by South Street. Out in that area, there's a little neighborhood that has one street in and one street out of it. It'll serve those students as well, so they don't have to walk as far to get to the sidewalk. We also, when that incident happened in August, I reached out to the lieutenant governor. Prior to that, I had been working for 2 years to try to get crossing at Heritage. We were approved for that, but unfortunately, they did their studies during COVID. And not very many people were driving and walking across. So, with the incident that happened in August, I requested through the lieutenant governor and through KDOT to restudy that. They have secured an engineer that's going to look at the Heritage crossing as well as the crossing at the Main Street. I had to write what my wish list was, and I'll be honest, I did request a second stoplight. I was also told that that is likely not going to happen. But I still put that in my request to the state. So that should be studied hopefully this spring. So we are still making investments on our side. Luckily, that council, at that time when we started this project, we had a lot of foresight about it, a lot of money that has allowed us to continue this project because we're using that money to leverage to get these state grants, which is $1 million this coming year, $3 million, $4 $5 million by the time we're the first community in Douglas County to be 100% completed with safe routes to schools. We'll also directly impact you from you guys over 6th Street is getting the sidewalk, as well as 2nd Street. It all leads to our city. First time in Baldwin, you can actually walk from the very east subdivision we have in Heritage all the way to our elementary school. Baker University campus.
Yeah, and to that point, I think our schools could do a better job of promoting those sidewalks. I mean, I can tell you, I had family in town for Halloween, and they were just amazed by the sidewalks. They said, "Is this always lit up this way? This is fantastic, right?" I think our kids, and I live fairly close to that area as well. I see kids walking home that way. My kids do sometimes as well. We can certainly help promote that more from our administration and our teachers to encourage kids to use the sidewalks, not just to relieve congestion, but also it's healthy for kids to walk to school and back, right? So it kind of does double duty.
In years past, when you have sought the grants for the sidewalks, you've asked for, letters of support. If something like that, I mean, I know it's a little bit different with requesting a crosswalk across 56, a little bit different process, but if it gets to that point where they want, in addition to their own study, if there's a feedback portion that's additional, please don't be shy.
So I'm not going to be, and I'll make a formal request right now. We applied last year for the federal government and for the state grants for $20 million to complete the trail down to Ottawa. Part of that grant process that we went through with that firm at that time was that we get a free application. We were denied that. Another area in Kansas did get funded for a trail, so that gives us a little bit of hope that on our second round that we could possibly see something from the United States government on that side of things, and they just opened it up. So with that, we will gladly accept any letters of support for that grant, because I think what that really does with that trail is not only connects two different communities, and that grant, it's really going to help Ottawa as well, because what people don't realize is when we made that agreement, that included the ability to lay fiber into that easement. So we're including that into the grant because the federal government has indicated to us that getting rural areas connected to high-speed, reliable internet is very important. So again, knowing that 4 years ago, it was very beneficial to include that in But also, I think it allows for an opportunity for kids that live in the rural areas that, again, may be experiencing the same pain points that in-town parents do, where they have to be at work by 8 o'clock to get their kids in. But during the nice days, if you have a trail, you know, you can hop on and ride your bike. For the older kids, I think it would be beneficial and promote more of that healthy living, healthy lifestyle, and that connectivity. So yes, we will accept those letters.
I'll add on real quick about the trail. I think there's probably people listening who may have not thought about it or heard about the trail in a while. Not only does it connect to Ottawa, it connects all the way to southeastern Kansas. And once we fill the gap between Ottawa and Baldwin, that leaves the door open for eventually making our way up to Lawrence and possibly head east. So just wanted to throw that up.
And vice versa with you guys. If there's any grant opportunities coming up with you, and I mean, I'm happy I write letters quite often for teachers that are going for the annual Teacher of the Year award, or or maybe going for special training or whatever. Reach out to me and write and ask for supportive letters. So I do that. I'm happy to do that. I believe in speaking on behalf of the council, we're happy to pass a resolution to assist you guys in any way, shape, or form. I feel like that's one good thing that the council, we have changed, is going after those grant opportunities. I didn't feel like Baldwin did enough of that, and letting the money just go to other communities without putting in that effort. And I can tell you, our city staff, our councils, they have been fantastic at supporting those grants, and that has really, really benefited the quality of life that I think all our citizens are experiencing, especially.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking about your quality of life topic indicator. What do you have? One of the parts of your strategic plan, and how it really overlaps with our engagement in schools for kids, because it really means the same thing. We know, just even a basic need is to have that sense of belonging for anyone, student, adults, anything. And some things that have been done in the past, or things that could be really expanded on. As an example, I have my youngest daughter graduated, and she was selected as one of the mural painters for the fire station mural. And that was such an amazing experience for those students to come together with community members who she was able to learn history, and not only that, just connection with other humans, but also then the experience of painting it and now enjoying it. And when people come to town, it's just such an amazing experience, and we have great teachers who have ideas. And so when you brought up the grant idea, I just think there's so much room to expand on that type of giving students a sense of belonging here, because most of them will probably want to stay. A lot of them will move away, but the ones that stay, we want to be involved and have a great quality of life. So I think expanding on some of those experiences would be fabulous.
One of the things that surprised some of my other council members didn't bring it up, but with the community center build out that's progressing, there's an opportunity there for the school district to leverage that via programming gaps that you might have. I mean, it's going to be a space that certainly could be used, should be used as part of what you guys may want to try to do from a programming perspective, whether it's before school, after school, those types of things. So as you go through that visioning process and kind of have an asset list in mind, it's certainly something that's open to the community, and so you guys are part of that. So.
I'm going to parlay off of that, because I don't know, a lot of people watch the school board meetings or they watch the city council meetings. Not a lot watch both, right? And I'm one of those people. I mean, I'm heavily involved in the city council and the committees. Unfortunately, don't come to a lot of your guys', and quite frankly felt sorry for you on a couple of them that I had to come and speak to, that my speaking part got canceled. But Scott pointed out a very important asset that is coming to our community, and that is a space that is available for everybody. And part of that space, and I've talked to Kelley a little bit about this, is going to have 3 classrooms on the second tier where the theater stage used to be. That is just basically going to be flex space. So if you guys run into spacing, as Scott alluded to. But I also want to offer up our space. We're going to have our council meetings in that space. Our intent is to build it out. We do have to have an dais, so raised, because we're going to have city court in there as well. Hopefully build it out with AV already fixed and in place, so that it's just easier for professional meetings and, quite frankly, for streaming, for the way we have to conduct business anymore. So I want to offer that to you guys as well, that if you want to use that space for meeting space, it's going to be able to seat a ton of people, because the whole gym, the meeting space will open up to the whole gym. So yeah, some of our plan, I mean, essentially think of Sullivan Square in the summer. That's kind of how we framed this building, is that we've seen a lot of great use for Sullivan Square, and we've seen a lot of great programming come out of Sullivan Square. But when winter hits, and we live in Kansas, so we don't know if that's going to be in August or if that's going to be in February, it shuts down. We lose that. We did get disconnected as a community, and so I really wanted to bring that sense of community back and keep it going year round instead of just being seasonal. So that's really, hopefully we can work with the school district to help us program that. I mean, quite frankly, we're just now getting ready to, I think, start talking about how we're going to program it, how we're going to staff it. We did budget for staffing, but that is one area that we could rely on you guys, because we're really truly trying to serve all populations, but specifically that population that you guys serve, the junior high and high school kids who have nowhere to go if they're not in sports or extracurricular activities. So.
I don't know who said sold, but I'm sold too.
Well, when you're talking about how we kind of have different subsets that, they're either avid city council watchers or avid school board watchers, the idea of having a centralized meeting space that all civic groups use. I don't know if any of you watched Gilmore Girls, but there was like one place where all the meetings happened. There's something about that is that the ease of familiarity. There are a lot of people who maybe want to get involved, and it can be, some clearly are not intimidated at all to do whatever. But for a lot of other people, the act of even coming can be, even though we want to be as welcoming as possible, and that's always the goal, it can be intimidating. And so if you have all of these meetings in this one place, it's like Cheers, this is where you go. And I think a lot of good could come from that. In terms of the programming side, school support help, that makes all the sense in the world, because that's what, that's kind of the not the business, but schools are always forming activities and programmings, and a lot of times it does come down to space considerations, and my mind's spinning with all the ideas that could come from that. So add that to the list.
One of the things that you touched upon, a group of students, a population that oftentimes we take for granted, and it is those tween years, the young teenagers, 6th, 7th, 8th graders. It'd be great for that, to have a place for them to go where after school, if they're not involved in sports, where they can, whether it's getting homework assistance, whether it is being part of a mentoring opportunity that might be there, or if it's simply just having a recreation space so that they can be active and not sitting at home on a device. The possibilities that are there, I think, are incredible. And then you also take into account of, you've got a great after-school care going on at the IC. This could be a second tier, but because they're middle school kids, it's not daycare, but it's an opportunity for them to go and whether again, get help, be mentored, or find a safe place to do something active. So I think it's really cool, and I think it could be an employment opportunity for more of our high school students as well.
So yeah, you hit exactly on, I think, our intention where it was and where we want to see this go. Again, I would implore each of you to think about staffing, staffing this space to help us, specifically those after-school times. If you guys have any resources or can think of any resources, part of this facility does have. So I went out and got sponsorships for a lot of the rooms, and raised about $300,000 to help get this completed. And one of the rooms is a game room. It's a room that I envision, and we'll see how it ends up and how it goes through. But you know, those kids that parents may not be able to be at home, right, after school, but they might not be able to have the luxuries that other children have of the games at home, so they can still socialize in an out-of-school area. But it's not sitting outside at Sonic, you know, or you know, doing other things that between your children do. All of us have done it, but it may not be the best things to be doing, type of thing. So, yeah, in obviously with the classrooms top, you know, programming those, bringing them out for, you know, people to do it for birthdays.
I know that this isn't the time for it, but I've got to say it, otherwise I'm going to forget it. But the opportunity for after-school enrichment clubs for students, or opportunities, whether it's learning first aid and CPR, babysitting essentials, opportunities to learn a new a skill or a trade or a hobby. And if you think about, we've got some community members that may have a skill or a craft that they might want to come in. So now you're bridging relationships between students and other adults in the community. We talk about, you know, a student often needs 3 positive role models that are adults outside of their parents. And so this is an opportunity to provide that for kids. So sorry, this wasn't the time for the brainstorm, but I knew I had to say it.
Yeah, you know, like, I don't know how much we reached out for input. You know, I don't think we should lose the opportunity before we, you know, ink the final funding of this to have you guys look at the space and maybe think of things we didn't think of. And if with a tweak here or tweak there, if you've got programming in mind that would require something that's not there, I think if we don't talk about it now, we're not going to be able to change it later. So some opportunity there for you guys just to look at the plans as they are today. I know they may change. We haven't finalized the design, but if you're willing, we can share that out and you guys just look at it and, you know, thumbs up. It's fine if you have some brainstorming on it. I know I'd be appreciative of that.
With that, does anybody else have any? Oh, Susan. Oh.
I just had to find that on button. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to mirror what Scott was saying. I think that's a great idea to get those plans in front of you guys. Because a lot of the ideas you guys have been throwing out is exactly what we envisioned as we worked with citizens on developing the plan for this community center. So it makes me very happy to hear your feedback and you guys have the same vision we did. So I think, you know, you guys are in this realm working with the kids, that having your feedback on what these final plans will look like would be great.
And I'll speak for Glenn. Glenn can send you over the plans. If any of you want to step into the space, we did finally get the mold remediated. The first year we put on a new roof to the facility, and then we got the mold remediated, and that was just completed this fall. So it is safe to go into now. You don't have to wear an air mask like we had to before, but please reach out to Glenn or myself. I can help facilitate anything. We have a key if you guys just want to go walk through it. But Glenn, if you could at least send out the plans to Mr. Dodge, and then he can circulate them so you guys can take a look at it. There's many variations of the plan that came through. Worked on it for quite a while, but absolutely we would love to have your guys' feedback on anything you may see that we didn't catch or didn't see.
Okay, I'm going to go for it again. So one area that I see potential for us to work together on maybe is transportation. I know transportation for seniors has been a challenge, not that it's not there, but it's the, there's just the logistical piece of knowing it's an option, it's the consistency of when it's available. All school districts, all entities everywhere have struggles with transportation. Now, when I say that, our transportation people are absolutely fantastic. We're so fortunate that we've been able to maintain our own fleet. But the reality is that, every year that gets harder and harder. We have so many dedicated people who have, worked in the district for their entire careers. But many of them are coming to the end of that, and it's hard to find drivers. So in terms of looking down the road, how do you sustain that? I mean, we've been able to keep it going, but by the skin of our teeth at times, in terms of just the number of people. There may be some opportunities. We had to discontinue, unfortunately, in-town busing. We didn't want to. This was a few years ago. The state law requires, as I don't know if you all know, but if you're 2.5 miles or more, you're required to provide transportation. And when we had to discontinue that, it was simply because we no longer had enough drivers. And then it also became, a budget issue as well. We would not be able to bring it back budgetarily, certainly at this point. But even if we had the budget, even if we had the dollars, we don't have the people to bring back in-town busing, which is why the safe routes to school and the sidewalk initiatives have been, it really has been a safe buffer. It's a great thing to have anyways, but it also, you all had developed that at a time when the sidewalks became even more important in town, because those were the very kids who no longer had bus service. Down the road, there may be creative ways to look at that with fresh eyes. I know Mr. Dodge has been studying that, was going to take this year to study that. But looking ahead, there might be partnered opportunities, the private public. I've seen some examples of that in other communities that not only serve kids, but then also your senior residents, because then you're sharing resources. So I don't know exactly what that looks like. I don't pretend to, but it might be something that could be an area of overlap that could serve all of our patrons. So,
yeah, I think I agree. I think that's one area that creativity is going to win the day. It's not. I don't see it yet, but as you grow, the city's growing. 2.5 mile walk. You're going to get quality of life service back. That it's not something that they believe is high quality of life. So it almost gets into the after child care, aftercare, before care, transportation to and from school that doesn't meet the school district 2.5 mile. I think all those things are quality of life issues that maybe there is a public-private solution to that. But I think if we could solve it, it definitely would differentiate us as a community.
So right now, a couple years ago, we did discuss the senior Wills program with Douglas County. That is actually a Douglas County program, all run by Baldwin volunteers, or all the drivers are Baldwin volunteers. That's why sometimes it can be difficult to staff. Some of them even use their personal vehicles when the vehicle's not in service or something. I do believe that we worked with them, and then they ended up getting a grant, I believe, from the state to get a brand new vehicle, finally, after we battled it for a year. So, because at that time we did look at taking that back under the city's umbrella as a council. So, but I agree 100% with Scott. As we grow, as we add, we're seeing more and more seniors move into our community, because I feel like Baldwin offers them something that Lawrence and Gardner and other communities don't, is that prolongs their ability to drive in a small town, right? So when you only have one stoplight, in the grocery store centrally located, you don't have to drive as far. So that has been a benefit to us. But I agree that may be something that I didn't think about that we want to add to our strategic plan is long-term transportation.
Yeah, it's in the Connected City part. Having an updated transportation plan is part of that. One of the metrics that we all talk about. So that definitely should include the district. We shouldn't go try to solve that ourselves. There's similar challenges.
Yes, with that, does anybody else have any further comments? I think my intent tonight was, this is a lot of information for both boards tonight. Maybe digest it. Kelley and I talked about, we're going to continue to work through and towards a final version of our strategic plan, and then maybe later on in the year we reconvene and kind of see what the final plans look like. And after everybody's digested everything, we can meet in our new community center and discuss and see if any other ideas have been developed between now and then. But I don't have any further to add. Scott, do you have anything?
No, I think it is hard to come up with actionable items when you're fresh. Right? It just reminds me. So, I think we should get this version to Mr. Dodge and he can circulate that out. But I think what I took away is, probably should have included the district and the board in some of what we're doing. Lessons learned, we need to ask, at least if you're willing to. You've done a good job of visioning, of including, so I think we need to do the same thing as we develop our strategies for the, for the plan. Definitely would like your input.
I hope if nothing else, definitely no action, beginnings of brainstorming and synergy and all of that. And I hope, if nothing else, that we are able to leave this space knowing that, one, we all appreciate each other and the work that each of you do individually, but also collectively as a body. And ultimately, it's all for the greater good of all of our citizens. And so there's definitely willingness to work collaboratively when it makes sense to do so, particularly when there are scarce resources. Just wanted you guys to know that there's willingness and open-mindedness about how we can look for creative solutions when that applies. So I don't have anything further to add. Does any other board members have anything they'd like to add?
I didn't really know what to expect this evening. Again, my first year, but as I've experienced this, it's really refreshing, and I feel like, to your point, Scott, I think quarterly might be a big ask, but a couple times a year, I think there's real value in what we do and what both entities, what both boards are trying to do to better our community and the experience here. Really, we see your strategic plan, and there's so many things that align and impact each other, and we should just really leverage that collaboration and partnership as much as we can, and that'll unify our community that much more, I believe. So kudos to you guys, and thank you for making time and facilitating this.
So with that, and again, I'll parlay off of everything both Kellys have said. Let's just do that. Thank you for, the board. Thank you for working with us on the various projects that have been outside the box, right? Things that Baldwin never have done before, but we worked together. We got those accomplished, and now hopefully we'll start reaping some rewards from that on both sides, from both boards. So again, thank you guys for always being open-minded, welcoming to us to come speak to you about different things, different ideas. Not all of them have worked, but the only way that we're all going to come and make our community better is if we continue to work together and collaborate and be open-minded with each other. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the city council portion of the meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Same thing on this side.
Motion to adjourn.
Kelley moved and Chris seconded. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 8:20, and many thanks to Kay and Mr. O'Neill for the tech help for tonight. Thank you all.